Decide when it comes to wearing masks. And the cost of getting sick is drowning Americans in debt. Also, an animal shelter in Germany is putting its pets on Tinder in hopes of finding them new homes.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Several 4-state schools are electing not to jump on the mask mandate bandwagon, instead offering a mask recommendation for students and staff. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, area schools lay out their mask policies for the fall semester. As we get closer to the start of school, area districts are finishing their back-to-school plans, and one of them is the Carl Junction School District. They've decided to not mandate mask wearing. The CDC does recommend people wear masks indoors regardless of vaccination status. The U.S. Department of Education has a similar stance. The Missouri Department of Ed says it acknowledges the CDC's position, but leaves the final decision to local districts. Now, across the state line in Kansas, the Parsons School Board announced last night it will require masks for the 21-22 school year. Students, staff, and visitors will be required to wear masks in buildings and buses regardless of vaccination status. If students and staff are exposed to COVID but are properly masked and show no symptoms, they will be able to stay in school without quarantine. The mask mandate will be reevaluated every regularly scheduled board meeting starting in September. However, in Chanute, USD 413 schools reversed their previous decision to require masks at school. The district now says masks are optional for both students and staff. There are some exceptions. Those include gatherings of 50 or more people. In those cases, people must wear masks. The other exception, people must wear masks on buses and other district transportation. Well, the heat continues to build across the 4 states. Mike Layslip joins us with the first look.
You and I have been here long enough to know the phrase, the Pittsburgh split. You've heard about that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on here from Pittsburgh and then go diagonal up through Fort Scott, Nevada, because that's about all you got hanging on to 87. Everybody else, we're pushing up way above that, if not into 92, which is where we find Joplin and Carthage as well. Miami sitting right now at 89. There's a live look over 7th and Range Line. My goodness, you want to talk about a busy Wednesday afternoon. Guess everybody just decided, hey, there's air conditioning in my car. Let's go ahead and use it. Feeling like 99 right now in Joplin. And look at that wind coming in at 20 miles an hour. Yet to get anybody into triple digits as far as our heat indices. Remember, we got a couple more hours before we actually get our peak heating hours. Now, the heat advisories run until Thursday. See all that blinking going on down there? Well, that's because theirs is set to expire just a little bit earlier than ours. I'm going to play safe and sound and say, no, ours is going to last just another day, because after we get out of today up into the 95, 96 area, guess what we're going to do tomorrow? We're going to repeat the same exact thing, not only overnight, but we're going to do the south wind. We're going to do a whole lot of heat until we get to Friday. Coming up here in just a little bit, Tanya, we'll talk about where we are headed into the weekend, why we get a little bit of a reprieve. We're going to talk about this storm named Fred, and we're going to talk about why 98 may be a magical number today.
The magical number 98. I like
Let's
that.
hope we don't want to get there.
Okay.
We don't want to get to 98.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm intrigued.
Right.
We'll find out more.
Yeah, we don't want to see it.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Well, embattled New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says he will no longer fight to stay in office, but he will continue to fight the mounting allegations launched against him. Governor Cuomo's resignation announcement yesterday comes exactly 1 week after the state attorney general's office released a scathing report documenting sexual harassment allegations from 11 women. The 3-term governor faces possible civil suits and criminal charges. Now, the governor insists he did not harass or grope anyone and says he is resigning because it's best for New York. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul will become the state's first female governor. A recent study shows debt from medical care is skyrocketing in the U.S. More than half of all the bills in collection right now are medical bills. CBS News' Anna Warner reports.
Florida resident Chad Kish's medical debt story began with severe pain from herniated discs in his neck last year.
I really couldn't get out of bed for more than a few minutes.
Doctors told the 39-year-old, who runs his own small pest control business, that he would need surgery. So he checked to make sure his insurance would cover it, then went ahead. But afterwards, he got stuck with a bill for a facility charge he says the insurance company refused to pay, $145,000. He says the hospital then demanded payments of $1,500 a month.
I told them that can't happen. Can we go with something lower? And they said no.
When he couldn't pay, the hospital sued him.
You're like, oh boy, now what do I do?
He's not alone. A new JAMA study finds medical bills are the largest source of American debt, with a record $140 billion in collections owed last year, nearly twice the previous estimate.
It's all about the medical bills.
Yeah, it's sort of a uniquely American phenomenon.
Stanford professor Neil Mahoney, the lead author, says bills are often higher for people living in a dozen states that chose not to expand eligibility for Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act.
The fact that the healthcare system, which is supposed to heal people, is creating half of debt and collections in the United States is something that I think is quite distressing.
Back in Florida, Kish says he was able to negotiate his bill down with a self-pay discount, but is still on the hook for roughly $50,000. And now he'll be paying $125 a month until it's gone, which will take some 33 years.
Very, very frustrating.
Keep in mind that study only looked at debt that was already in collections, so it's not the entire picture. Data from the pandemic is not reflected yet. Anna Werner, CBS News, Berkeley, California.
One Missouri judge says the state can no longer deny Medicaid health care to the thousands of more newly eligible adults. Cole County Judge John Beadham issued the order yesterday. In 2020, Missouri voters approved the constitutional amendment, making more low-income adults eligible for the government health care program. But Governor Mike Parson refused to implement the amendment after the GOP-led legislature did not provide any funding. It remains unclear how the state will pay for health care for the newly eligible recipients. The legislature may have to hold a special session to set aside more money for Medicaid. And that's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, more than a dozen potential pets now have accounts on a popular dating platform. We'll show you. And later, we're making orzo stuffed peppers in the Mr. Food Test kitchen. An animal shelter in Germany is getting creative to help find new homes for their resident cats and dogs. As CBS's Ian Lee reports, they're using new tricks for an old problem.
Captain Kirk is ready for his close-up and a head scratch. An animal shelter in Germany is using these pictures for the cat's Tinder profile to help him boldly go to a new home.
Also vom Gefühl her ist es tatsächlich.
Quite simply, it's a lot of fun and better than boring newspaper ads, this worker says. We thought we'd join the young people and follow the trend on Tinder. You won't find cute kittens or playful puppies here. These are older animals. They still love long walks on the beach, but they have a harder time finding new owners.
Also natürlich hoffen wir, dass wir die 15 Tiere, die wir jetzt
We've created profiles for 15 potential pets, this man says. It's important to highlight that many of the animals here are lonely souls. The COVID lockdown last year saw many pandemic puppies adopted, but some are now being abandoned as people go back to work. Many ending up at this shelter. Now they've already got folks swiping right in approval of their new Tinder approach. And who knows? Maybe even Captain Kirk will find a perfect match. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Well, some animal shelters in the United States report the number of pets returned has doubled since COVID restrictions were lifted. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
When life gives us lemons, we make lemonade. So what do we do if it gives us peppers? Stick around, I'll show you.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
If you ever look out your window at this site over 7th and Rangeline, you're inside the air conditioning, you go, man, what a beautiful Wednesday that we're experiencing. And it truly has been a great sight upon a bustling 7th and Rangeline, where currently we sit at 92 degrees. But I tell you what, if you were up on that tower, where that camera is perched. Number one, it would be hot, feel about like it's 99. Number two, it would be windy as it's coming in from the south-southwest at 21 miles per hour in Joplin right now. A whole bunch of 90s already on the board. Got a couple places hanging on to the high 80s. But two things I want to point out. Number one, yesterday, topped out at 97 degrees. So why is that an important number? Well, a little historical fact checking. How hot you're hot? At 3:40 yesterday, that was our peak heating time at Joplin Regional Airport when we hit 97. Well, that was the hottest temperature of 2021. In fact, the last time we reached 97, almost a calendar year ago, August 25th, 2020 on that. Now, get this, the last time we hit 98, this is that key that I was talking about. Last time we hit 98 in Joplin, August 6th of 2018. It's been 3 years since we've had a 98 degree reading. That shocked me when I saw that. Now get this, at Martin Johnson Airport, Chanute on the other hand, 98 3 times in the month of July alone. This just past July, that heat wave we had this month of July. Joplin hasn't been there since 2018. Chanute has been there 3 times in the past 3 weeks. Here's where we sit as far as our heat indices go. A whole bunch of high 90s. We'll easily cruise up into the 100s here by the time it's all over. And once again, a strong southerly breeze. We're now cruising 15 to 20 miles per hour easily, and we'll gust for anywhere from 25 to 30 here by the time it's over. This is a normal sight, the heat advisory lasting until 8. You may remember, though, that all the entire Southwest was covered with those heat advisories. So what we're seeing the advisories and warnings do as far as the heat is concerned is slowly creep off to the east right there, moving on the other side of the Mississippi. And it is going to be a scorcher as they've already thrown up heat advisories on the East Coast where they're going to have record-setting weekend temperatures. We're not going to be able to set a record. Let's be thankful for that. And another thing that we don't have to worry about, severe thunderstorm activity. Any rain that we do see is going to be very, very limited as it'll be up to the north and out to the west, but really it'll dominate the Great Lakes for the second consecutive day. And speaking of that, they've already got tremendous thunderstorm activity beginning up through northern Indiana into portions of Michigan. So their severe weather day is already underway. Now, speaking of some severe weather, there is a tropical storm that has now been named, goes by the name of Fred. It's kind of hard to believe that here we are in the middle of August and we're only on the letter F as far as our Atlantic tropics go. But one thing we're going to pay attention to with Fred from a national perspective is if we track this out into Saturday, tropical storm force as it crosses the Dominican and Haiti regains, hits the northern coast of Cuba, and then poses a threat there for southern Florida, and then wants to make landfall up by the Panhandle. Of course, it was not but 2 years ago where there were a number of hurricanes that battered that same area. So like I said, nationally speaking, that's what we'll be following. Here in the 4 states, it's just the heat and the wind. Had to find that wind icon and make sure that was on there for the rest of the afternoon with as much as it picked up. And then overnight, mostly clear skies, but those southerly gusts, they remain. We were talking a little bit about that rain. There it is. It develops late tonight into early tomorrow morning. But really, you're going to have to live to the far north or the far west to even pick up a drop. Now, we should get more widespread rain here Friday night into Saturday. And Tanya, nice thing about that is, not only are we in the need for some rain, but also, too, it's going to cool us down a little bit. So we'll go high 80s, not only over the weekend, but should be able to begin next week with that as well.
Okay, looking forward to that. Light at the end of the tunnel there.
Getting there.
All right.
Getting there.
Thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Specialist Jerry Nelson in the U.S. Army. The soldier from Lamar joined the 61st Aviation Unit in 1965. He worked as a crew chief on a Caribou cargo plane in Vietnam. To Specialist Jerry Nelson, we thank you, our 4-state hero. Tis the season for peppers, and Howard shows us he's got the right stuff for a variation on a popular recipe. We're making orzo stuffed peppers in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
It's summer, and that means it's pepper season. Right now, there's such an abundance of them, we hardly know where to start. You can add them to your salads for a little color and crunch, or pair them with your favorite grilled sausage. But my favorite way to use them is to stuff them, like we're doing today. The good thing about this recipe is that we can use any variety of pepper, from the small and spicy jalapeno to the cubanellas and even mayo poblanos. Today we're being traditional by using colorful bell peppers. For our stuffing, we mix together some ground beef, Italian sausage, and that can be mild or hot, some tomato sauce, a few seasonings, and some uncooked orzo pasta. Yep, uncooked. Once it's all mixed, we stuff each pepper with some of the filling and into a soup pot they go. Then we'll top them off with a bit more tomato sauce and a little water, cover them, and let them simmer until they're tender. When the whole house smells amazing, they're done. Just spoon on the pan drippings and dig in. The recipe for our orzo stuffed peppers is online now, so you can enjoy a true one-pot dinner that's done in 3 simple steps. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where every day we're looking for a simpler way, like one-pot cooking, for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
Here's where we're standing right now. Remember, we don't top out till about 3:30 in the afternoon, so we'll be up there around 95, 96 degrees. Here's hoping we don't get to the magical number of 98, as we previously discussed. Also, too, Dow and Tanya, just stepped outside to check our anemometer. We just picked up a gust of 32 miles per hour.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, we're barreling in right now from the south.
Wind and dry temperatures, the high temperatures
it's making
really
a big difference. It's not that humidity from the end of July. This is wind driven this week.
All right, there you go. What do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, millions of Americans suffer from sleep apnea. It affects up to 80% of people with cardiovascular disease, yet it's under-recognized and under-treated. What you need to know about the link between sleep apnea and heart issues in Health Watch. Plus, the city of Miami tells residents of Miami Towers to evacuate within 24 hours due to structural integrity. We're going to have details. And a local furniture company breaks ground on a nearly $30 million project. Hope you join us for those stories. A lot more KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dow. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.